This is something that I've floated in a bunch of different chats, both publicly and privately with streamer friends. I've mentioned it a bunch of times, mostly to friends who play retro or to friends who do like a lot of games and demos like I do, things like that. What I posted on here, I think that categories are great. I think categories are super important on Twitch. It helps connect us. I'm not going to read this verbatim out loud, but I'm going to give you sort of a summary. I think categories are super important, but I also think tags are super important. And I think that they can't replace each other. So at no point in this am I going to suggest that we replace tags with it or replace categories with tags. I think that it's really important that both exist separately, even if I think that both of those things can be fine-tuned to be even better for the site. I think that categories help us find new streamers or help us find our favorite games or help us connect with people over things that we love. I think that categories are incredibly important. They also have a huge impact on your viewership. If you stream in one relevant category versus another, both could be accurate for what you're streaming and neither would be a lie, but one could make it so that a bunch of people will see it and hopefully click in. And one might be an entirely dead category and have nobody checking it, and you might not be seen by anybody just because you were in that category. So it can be really tricky. And like something that's a huge make or break thing for a lot of streamers is, what category do I stream in right now? Especially for people who do multiple things. Like for many years of my streaming, I've also done stream raiders, which I haven't been doing lately, but I really miss. But many people do words on stream, or maybe you're doing a game demo and it's just came out, right? And it has its own category already, or it's a game that's about to come out. So nobody knows to look for it yet because nobody's heard of it yet. And it comes out like 2 weeks from now. There's a games and demos category and lots of people check that. But a lot of game publishers and game developers and, you know, people who work on games and stuff, voice actors, all sorts of things, will check the categories of games that they're in, and sometimes will even pop into streams like playing the new games that they just made. You wouldn't want to miss them, or you wouldn't want to miss, you know, just people who are really passionate about it, who backed it on Kickstarter, or like otherwise just like really love whatever this new thing is. Most people won't know to check for it yet. Or with retro. Retro is a great category. I don't think anything should ever happen to it. I don't think it should ever go away. But there are a bunch of games where, like, I use Secret of Mana as an example. It often only has like 1 or 2 viewers in it, and almost nobody ever streams in the Secret of Mana category, so it makes sense that there's almost never any viewers there. But over 35,000 people follow that category, so that they know when people are streaming it. It's just a dead category because retro is a much more successful place to stream, right? And Secret of Mana is a very popular like retro title. Even if everybody hasn't played it, everybody's usually heard of it if they're into retro games or old enough to remember it. Whether it's less popular or like less checked for retro game or a brand new game or demo or whatever, it'd be so useful if we could have like a secondary category. My main suggestion here is that we shouldn't be doing like custom categories, because then we won't be able to find each other. If it was like tags and we just type in whatever we want, then it means that there would be like 500 different ways of typing the same game and nobody would find anybody. So I'm not asking for that. What I'm asking for is, imagine this. I'm actually going to say this part out loud. Imagine this. We have a category system much like we currently have, where you pick the specific thing, right? Or you could select retro as an example, and then once you select an umbrella category like retro, games and demos, makers and crafting or something, right? You select the umbrella category, and then an additional field pops up where you type in the specific thing. I think would be huge, because then you'd connect with the retro people who actively follow and check retro all the time. But then you'd also be able to connect with these like 35,000 other potential people who are desperately trying to find streams of that game. It makes a huge difference, and it can help with discoverability massively. And you might be thinking, well, if there are 35,000 people who follow that, just stream in that category. Well, so retro usually has several thousand people actively looking at it, and also has 1.5 million people who follow retro as a category. 1.5 million people who actively follow that category. And so you don't want to choose these people over retro, but you don't want to choose retro over these people, it makes it so difficult. I follow, I know I just followed retro, but I follow almost 40 categories on Twitch that are usually games that I can't find people playing most of the time. So I really want to know when somebody is streaming it. Like, I'm desperate to know when somebody's actually streaming it, even if I've never heard of that person, because I really want to see them play it. And I really want to see what they think about it. Or like, maybe my favorite video game is one of their favorite video games too, because they're playing it. And like, I desperately want to know. Right? And so I feel for these people, not just as a streamer, but as a viewer. I understand it. The retro crowd is super passionate. Imagine also being able to connect with the retro people and the dedicated people who love a specific game. But same with games and demos. Again, like, I play games and demos every week pretty much. And then I have to pick between, I often stream in that specific category so that the developers or publishers who gave me the code can find it. But I'm actively passing up on the stream being more successful when I do that by not being in games and demos. And it would be so beneficial to be in games and demos and then also be able to be like, I'm in games and demos and I'm also in the Crow Country demo, or whatever the case may be. Like, being able to do both would be huge for not just myself, but many streamers. There are a lot of streamers who do brand new indie horror demos as they come out, and they have to pick between categories that nobody follows yet that have no viewers in them, and games and demos, which is like a huge category that a bunch of people check all the time, but it might not find horror fans specifically. And then there's also some weirdness, like categories that are for specific different releases of games, and some of them are merged all into one category just for that game, and some are like, well, you can do Skyrim, and you can do the Skyrim Special Edition, which is mostly just cleaned up graphics and removal of loading screens. But then a lot of people don't want to play in the Special Edition category because the main category has 2.5 million followers and gets checked all the time, versus the Special Edition that's less than 200,000 followers and is checked way less. So, like, being able to go, I'm playing Skyrim and it's the Special Edition, or I'm playing Resident Evil 4 and it's the remake, or I'm playing a port of this game. It's not even like a different version of it, it's just a port, but like there's a different category for every console release of it. So like, I'm playing this, but I'm playing this edition of it. Being able to do that would be really useful for a lot of people. And some people use tags for those things, but because tags aren't standardized, and even just like a small different spelling means that you won't come up in a search for that tag, means like that's not a reliable way to do that. I made an argument for subcategories and being able to do two at once. Alternatively, or additionally, I think maybe it would just be good if we had multiple categories, even if they're not subcategories, for people who are doing multiple unrelated activities at a time. Like people who are doing Plastic Duck Simulator in addition to a game, or stream raiders, or doing art at the same time as another thing, or, you know, maybe you're crafting but also doing stream racing, or words on stream with friends, or whatever. It'd be really huge and beneficial to be able to go, like, people who are looking for stream raiders can find my stream, but also people who are looking for art streams can find my stream. Or maybe if we could have two categories, but if one of those is an umbrella, then we get to define that umbrella category and still have another one. Then that would be the ideal version of this. But yeah. So that's my suggestion, is subcategories for the big umbrella categories. And then just in general, ideally being able to have like 2 categories on a stream at the same time, or 3 categories on a stream if there's a subcategory. I think that'd be massively helpful. I also think that the fact that I can play like 4 different games in the same stream and they'll all be different categories during the stream, but then the broadcast will just say the first category I was in no matter what I streamed after that. And so it'd be really, really nice having multiple categories on VODs. So if somebody was looking for when I played Stardew last, but if I didn't start on Stardew, they'd still be able to find it. I think that'd be really, really helpful. So I think like the whole platform would be better for discoverability and people to actually use VODs and all sorts of things if we could put multiple categories on streams, but especially VODs. Thank you for everybody for listening to why I think that this would help the platform. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm really flattered by some of the people who've been interacting with it. Like, not that this is why I did it. I think that it's just generally really important for the platform. But I do love, like, that gamer chick saying that. Or Zeph, I love Zeph so much. Or Ash said hi, who's a Twitch ambassador and, like, one of my heroes on the platform. And I've looked up to her for, like, 5 years. And I just adore her. I'm really happy that people have been so receptive over the last 2 days. But yeah, this is a thing. I do think that Spike J's question matters. I can't respond to comments quite like directly, but I think that matters. I think that if you were in 2 categories, you should be able to get drops from both at the same time. But yeah, so like this is the thing, like music and Rocksmith and stuff like that. But I think it's been really cool, and if anybody wants to vote for it, it is as simple as just signing in with your Twitch account. But I also check UserVoice all the time because I think it's really important. You can give feedbacks on all sorts of stuff like bugs that are happening and how the front page works and the tag systems and accessibility, user accessibility that you want to see on the platform, and just like all sorts of things on there. But you just sign in with your normal Twitch account and you can vote on things or make your own suggestions. But yeah, that's my spiel. I'm going to keep it pinned for right now. Thanks for being along for the rant. For those of you who might not use the function, you can search specifically for tags or specifically for categories, and you can't follow tags, but you can follow categories. Thank you for the TED Talk. You're very welcome. I'm gonna pull up retro again really quick so I can show something, just because I think it's a way to use the platform that I think can be helpful. So we're gonna go to retro. Not everybody knows this, but you can search for tags within categories. So you can search by who just started their stream recently, so that you don't accidentally find somebody who's just about to end. You can search for like lowest number of viewers, but you can actually search tags within a category instead of just searching tags in the main search bar. You're like, I want to watch somebody on their first playthrough of whatever they're playing. Then you can search for just that. You can search for achievement hunting, stuff like that. So the one problem you see is that categories are bloated already, will become more bloated and make discoverability harder. Can you give me an example? Like, that isn't like a you're questioning me. It's a genuine curiosity, because it's already like against TOS to stream to categories that you're not actually doing, which is why I often will be in just chatting for like 10 minutes and then go back to another thing. Even though that's scary, because just chatting gets more hate than it needs to. It brings unwanted attention with it. Yeah, I mean, that's a huge part of what I was talking about, which is like a lot of people who are playing retro games will stream in retro instead of the specific games category, even though it's a retro game. Yeah, there's crafts and there's IRL, there's crafts, there's special events, games and demos, which I was talking about a bunch. Well, there's music. There are a bunch of big categories that like are made up of a bunch of different things. Art and game development. Some people are doing game development and art at the same time and want to share both. And again, it's already against TOS to like stream under the wrong categories. I don't think it's going to be a problem. Somebody's playing like Final Fantasy VII and is streaming like not even the remake, just the original, is streaming Final Fantasy VII in the Final Fantasy VII category and in the retro category instead of just picking retro over Final Fantasy VII. Or like Super Mario World and retro or the like. Like, I don't think that's going to be a huge issue. And I think if there are like 3 million people in retro, making the UI difficult to prevent them all from accurately categorizing it isn't the solution. Yeah, that's basically where I'm coming from, right? Is like saying that like unless they define retro more, then like there'll be people playing games that don't feel like retro in there. People already do that because they're not sure how to categorize a game. now. So I think that if you could tell what people are playing specifically, if you went to the retro category, and this is not me trying to convince you that you're wrong, and I know that that's not necessarily, like, that's not what you're doing with me. We're just having like a discussion of how this might work. But I want to throw out there, right? Okay, so some people are really, really good. Some people are really, really good about putting the game, like the full game title and what system it is and stuff in their titles. But that is both harder to search, in fact, almost impossible to search. And it is inconsistent whether or not people... I don't want to call anyone specific out, but I just want to... I just kind of want to find a random stream really quick. Scrolled down the retro category. In fact, I can just start at the top. If I was scrolling down the retro category, King of Epoch's cool. I doubt he'd mind that I'm doing this. And I saw next to him playing retro or something, seeing that he's also playing Jewels of the Oracle as like a secondary category, or Legacy of the Wizard or whatever, and then like, or Shrek. And then I saw that, like, while scrolling down, it's like, let's pretend this person instead of playing Space Quest 3 for DOS, was playing like a PlayStation 3 game or something, or an Xbox 360 game. And you next to it saw that yes, they're in retro, but they're also like, it specifically says on their stream that they're playing Bully for the Xbox or something. I don't think that would make it harder to figure out. You know what I mean? Like, there's some people who are like, retro night, or they forced me to play this. I don't actually think it would make the retro category worse if next to all of these streams, not depending on their titles to give me the information, it said, oh, this person's playing Scooby-Doo. Oh, this person is playing Chibi Robo for the GameCube. This person's playing Fallout 3, I guess. 2008. That's 16 years ago. It's not quite retro, but the problem already exists. So I'd like them to try some. Exactly, Bryle. And I think that at least, like, if people are going to be streaming and it says Mystery Night as their title, or just Retro Night, or they forced me to play this, or whatever, like, I don't think that it's going to make it any worse just having exactly what they're playing as like a click-onable category that is a standardized format that just perma exists next to them, like, would make it any worse. Because again, there's already games that are questionable whether or not they're retro depending on who you ask, right? It's not perfect, but I think that a standardized, everyone showing, yes, they're in retro, but also like what they're playing wouldn't make it worse. I think if people didn't have to choose as much, we'd actually have less people miscategorizing what they're streaming. Like, if you could be like, I am playing Friday the 13th for the original Nintendo Entertainment System. Perfect. Great. That works for me. If somebody didn't have to choose between that or retro, because there's nobody following that category. There's nobody using that category. It would help them significantly, and that person belongs in retro. Same with popular retro games. There are a bunch of people playing Ocarina of Time and the original Final Fantasies and like original Mario games and stuff that aren't in retro, but maybe a bunch of retro people would really like them because they're playing it. Like, oh man, this person is playing the original Super Mario RPG. A lot of retro fans would be into that. But nobody will know that that person streams retro because they actually only stream in the game categories and not ever in retro itself. Well, the problem is that retro was for the game retro and not retro games, and then it was taken over. True. Yeah. Like, do I think it'd be better if they also made like a retro the arcade game category or something? Like, yeah, sure. Like retro gaming versus retro the game. Like, yeah, it would be better if they defined those categories, sure. But again, I don't think perfect should be the enemy of good here, and I think that this would be a step in a better direction. I think if people really want to stream the arcade game named retro, if there was a second category that was specifically for the game and the category for retro gaming as like a blanket, and we had the multiple categories thing so people could be in retro gaming because they're playing an arcade game, but also in the game retro specifically, that would help people find that one person who wants to stream retro the arcade game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it would help them too.